Hindsight's always 20/20. Like, you always think, oh, like those people who are watching those tapes now that you sat and watched them, of course, the security guards are thinking, how did we miss that? And you're right, it probably was different people on different shifts. They weren't clocking that. That didn't seem. So I understand that it's easy to look back and say what we could have, should have done. I had 3 small children. So I only came to Pulse on special event nights in the beginning. Actually, I was on vacation with my daughter who had just graduated high school. It was our mother-daughter trip, and we were there with the 2 other mothers and daughters. We were in Cancun, Mexico, and so we were still wide awake. And I was received that phone call about 2:06 in the morning, so 4 minutes or so after the shooting began. When it came to Pulse, my husband wasn't really involved in Pulse on a daily or regular basis, other than just helping, when I needed him to. It wasn't something that he did. It was always considered my hobby. He called it a very expensive hobby, but he was generous and kind to me. No, they did a great job with it. With what they were dealt, at the time of night, the darkness of a nightclub, what was happening in there. I mean, no one thinks that there's going to be a terrorist attack in your city. Especially don't think it's going to be happening at a gay bar on the corner of Cayley and Orange Avenue. So I think that, our response team, they truly were amazing. They did everything they could have done with what the knowledge they had.
Did you know many of your customers, in the sense of, would you see, I know you weren't there every night, right. So I get it. You weren't hanging out in the club or anything. Did you know any of the victims? Did you remember running into those people over time, or?
Just a couple that I knew from staff members, if they were friends of the staff, so they would come to certain events I'd be at, whether they would actually be at Pulse or not. That could have been at someone's home. So they were just a couple that I knew personally. That number could have been much higher had the hospital been any further away. Well, actually, I will say this: the perpetrator did have a goal that evening. I firmly believe in my heart Pulse was not his target. I went to every day of that trial of his wife and learned about their, where had they been the week before, where they had been targeting, where they had walked through.
Did they talk about like Disney Springs at one time too?
Yes, and that's exactly where they were the week and before. They had never been to Pulse. They had never driven by Pulse. And so what happened was that when they went where he had gone to his target, was spooked somehow, got in his car, and he just Googled Orlando nightclubs, and Pulse just happened to come up at the top of the list. It wasn't that the LGBT community was exactly targeted, but what I can tell you is that he was in that building for 11 minutes before he went outside and strapped on his guns. So he knew who he was going to kill. He didn't discriminate against it, but he knew exactly where he was and who he was going to kill. But and I'm sure in his faith, that might seem like an okay thing to do. I'm pretty sure that there's LGBTQ community was not accepted in his faith as well. But Pulse was not his target. It's not where he left when he left his house that evening, where he knew he was going. Something people don't realize is that we lost a business, and so we lost an income, and we have a mortgage, and we had a family to feed, just like everybody else does. So we were in a certain life plan, and our life plan was changed dramatically. And so I think we have learned to, it's been 3 years, we've adjusted our life pretty well, and just trying to figure out, where to go from here. If we got in a fight with somebody, went home, you wrote a nasty note, or you spread a rumor,